you through this right now. We're talking about the 70 acres, all of the land, and all of the physical buildings except what I just listed. Got it? Okay.
Okay.
So in 2015, there was a reval, a state mandated reval. That property was valued at 298,870,000, something like that, right? 200, I just say 298 million, to almost 299 million. That was in 2015. That was the value, which means 100%, not 70%, that was given to the mall property in 2015. The mall owners then, and then the appeal was transferred to the new mall owners, appealed that 2015 assessment. As many people appeal assessments, but this was a huge appeal because when that appeal got settled, it didn't get settled till 2019. These things take a lot of time. They're in court for many years. The settlement took that 2015 value all the way down to 219 million, from 298 million to 219. So the quick math you can do, okay, it dropped about $80 million in value. So when you look at our grand list in 2019, okay, we find out that we've got $80 million less of value on that property. So we have to, when we grow the commercial grand list, we have to make all of that up. I know some of you already understand this, but please bear with me because it's really important. So in 2015, it's 298 million and change. It gets lowered to 219 million and change from a settlement from a appeal to the 2015 value, right? Now we have to do the next state mandated reval, and we do it in 2021, even though it didn't get finished till 2022, but that's how it is. That's how it works. It's technically the 2021 grand list. So that value went down to 153 million. That had to do with commercial real estate, market forces, and COVID impact to the property, because one of the lenses that you look through, not all, if you're valuing a property, you look through multiple lenses if you are appraising it. You look at the neighborhood, you look at the market, you look at you look at the income to the property. That's one of the lenses you look through. So income comes to a property such as that through tenant leases and through a portion of their sales. So a mall gets a percentage of sales from certain kinds of tenants, okay? So if the mall is closed and there's no sales, or if you're at 25 or 50% of customers are allowed in, your sales are down. It doesn't mean there wasn't other forces, but that mall property was lowered to $153 million value for the piece of the property as I described it, minus the other buildings and land that I discussed. Those are valued separately. So there still is other value on that property, okay? And there's still other value to the front of that property, which is the new housing, okay? Which is still coming online. It wasn't even online at all for the 2021 thing. There was de minimis value to it because it was just going under construction. They've added a little bit each year as something new gets CO'd. They start to add a percentage until it's fully CO'd, and then the whole thing is valued and so forth. Okay, so there's other value around there. And when Shanice was working on the article, she used the word value instead of, she was looking at an audit document that showed the assessment, and there was no context about what part of the mall this even related to. And when she referred back to the previous value, that was not quite correct, okay? So it understands that, but she did a good job trying to figure it out, but she needed a little bit more clarification. So we gave her that today. So hopefully she can update that. But people will ask you about it, I'm sure, in your circles. So it's not that we didn't drop value on the mall, we did. It's not that, but it's not exactly what you read in the paper. That's not an accurate reflection. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yes,
Okay.
I do actually. Or a request, not a question about the mechanics. When you get a chance, and yes, I know you're without Geo this week, could you just send out to us the valuation of the big box parcels so we could have in our head the 100 and what million plus X million more? So when we say no, including these self-standing buildings, the true value subject to taxes is. It's
Yep.
not as low as it appears. It would help us to know that.
I agree.
I'll do that.
Okay,
That's
thank
good
you.
Yes, thank you.
And that
Um,
probably would be helpful to Shanice to see it that way.
Yeah, we went through a lot of that with her, Marshall. But
Okay,
you're right. We need to do it that way. It doesn't mean that there hasn't been loss of value.
but I'd rather
Okay.
now show, hey, we reported it was only worth 110. The actual add-on means the value is that we're receiving taxes on,
Right, so it's
based on these
valued at
other
hundred
parts
and
of the mall
53
that have
plus
other.
Target, plus J.C. Penney, plus Fitness Edge, plus Lord and Taylor building. Okay.
Yeah, because Macy's is
Okay.
And then
not separate anymore.
no, they get taxed in the bundle.
Yeah,
And
in the old
Target
location, it
used
was
to,
separate,
yeah.
which
And
had
then
been
when they
Reed's, but not
moved, they
that
went
it
into
was
the bundle,
included.
and Target
Yeah,
is
the
now,
separate
as
when
of
the
the
rebuild of Reed's.
2021,
Thank you.
it's just, it's valued separately. I'll also give you the value of what we have so far on the grand list for the housing on the mall property, but that is valued as of last October. And again, there's more built now. And I can tell you, estimate what the value will be, probably about $60 million or more when it's fully built. Okay, so, but what I want folks to understand is, because this ties to people's questions on, well, why is the commercial grand list not growing? There's lots of, it is growing, it has grown, but it's not a big percentage. Well, we've added tons of new value to the commercial grand list. Okay, the problem is we had an $80 million hole that went down another from 2019, 219 million to 153. We had to make up that enormous amount of grand list value. Okay, never mind other commercial properties that their values, like digital, had an appeal, their value went down. Like our hotel in town, the value went down drastically because they were closed during COVID, and they had, their income was nil, actually. They had a huge decline. So there were some big declines in values, and all of the new value had to make that up. We still added value on top of that, but not as much. If we did not have such a disjointed view of what the mall's value was from 2015, we would have had a totally different commercial grand list growth percentage. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, and there were there's other forces that are going on in the commercial real estate world that we have to be mindful of over the next few years, and always. But I just wanted to, I will send that, Marshall, and I just want to make sure that if you're reading the article that you understand. Hopefully she corrects some of it. I think she really wanted to and will clarify it. She's doing a great job. I want to just say that on the record. She's wonderful. But it's a complicated thing in terms that are not things that people really know about, that are lay people. They don't know what all these things mean. So,
Rena, I have a question.
mhm.
So obviously there's some concerns that people have that even though commercial has grown in the past few years. And, I understand we've had a significant amount of growth on the commercial side, but there have been settlements, there have been valuations that have been too high. What is the timeline or the plan or the goal to perhaps hopefully have a situation where the grand list residences aren't having to take the brunt of that grand list cost? So I know it's not a finance board or a tax board, but the economic development having a huge effect on that. Is there a hope or a timeline of when we might see that change?
So I think that what you have to, we can never know what the market forces are going to be. So there's always going to be some fluctuation in the commercial real estate. I don't see us getting another $100 million, plus drop all at once. I don't see it. I mean, God forbid anything could happen, in the world. But, so that as you're starting to see other projects come online, hopefully we start to see more. Now, you're never going to have a situation where the commercial grand list is going to dominate the town's tax burden because you don't have enough commercial real estate in town. 90% of your land use that's taxable is residential. So, you don't have you're always going to have a heavier burden on the homeowner. But the fact that we had so much loss in whether it was inflated or whatever happened on the commercial side, I mean, we've kind of come through that, and a lot of the development that happened made up for that. Were it not for a lot of those projects that went up, okay, there would have been a much worse impact to the residential side than there was. So I think that going forward, there'll be some, ups and downs, but some of the newer projects coming online, I think are going to just, we should see a lot more plus on the commercial side, and less loss, Now, having said that, there's some things looming in the commercial real estate world. There's a lot of commercial debt that is coming due over the next 3 years. And there's much discussion that economists and others are having about this because that debt was financed at low interest rates. Now the interest rates are up and the values are down, right? So there's some of those properties out there that are in trouble. And if they can't refinance, right, Fred and the bankers, Justin, if the value's not there and they can't refinance, that's a major issue. Okay. And that will hit every town. And so what we have to do for those properties we're concerned about, like the mall, we have to try to help them add value. Okay. Because they have debt on that property that is coming due eventually. Okay. And they're going to have to deal with that. So part of the study that we're trying to do is to show the value of that property beyond what it is valued today. And hopefully will attract investment, and that investment will, hold that property.
Yeah.
Marshall.
Rena, excuse me. In talking about coming refinancing for businesses, it's almost incumbent upon this Economic Development Commission, MetroCog, etc., to go after our state legislatures, and we happen to have the head of the Senate Bonding Committee. We have to have our legislature come up with Connecticut tax-free refinance bonds for business and industrial properties. We're going to have to bite the bullet and finance it through state bonds that are tax-free, that can be bought by any citizen even before it goes to the brokers, and pull ourselves up through this.
That's
because
an
the banks
interesting
have to
policy.
be, well, I've been through state refinancing money previously for housing, but it can be done for business property as well, and this will protect the towns. And I haven't heard a single legislator talk about this yet. I've been following everything through the state, but I've seen already inklings of it in New York, where I'm involved, and I think we need to get on the bandwagon and push for this as part of MetroCog so I'm bringing it up here just
No, it's a
because.
great idea, Marshall, and I don't know if the banking committee is taking this up at all. I'm not sure it's hit their radar
No,
screen
not
yet.
the
I don't
banking committee.
know.
Marilyn's head of the bonding committee.
No, I know, but it would be
But
taken up potentially in banking, the calamity that's
I know
coming.
that, but I think the bonding has to look at, just as we had Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, we're ready for a commercial property refinance authority
Right,
to be
I'm,
through
listen,
state bonds. But
it's got a
then
lot of,
again, got 3/4 of a foot out the door, which is part of the problem with me for right now.
yeah, but your idea is interesting, but we'll talk with our delegation definitely about it. I'm sure this is something that other communities are gonna start talking about. And I'm
I would
sure you're right, if we went after something like that, it would come through bonding perhaps, but but the banking commission, I think, is gonna have a lot to say about it, I would imagine. Just because, they're part of this. So
Mhm.
I don't want to
Okay.
scare the pants off of anyone. I mean, we're looking at, some of these issues and, I think Trumbull is a very financially sound town. We have a large rainy day fund. We're growing our grand list. I think, to Justin's question, I don't see us absorbing, what was the change? $150 million devaluation in one or two chunks, so that if we're adding the new housing, if by the mall, if we're adding, we've got a storage facility being built on pretty much land that's non-producing. We've got other projects in the wings. Those will be, I think, growth projects to the grand list commercial side. There's other things in the mix. The project at 48 Monroe Turnpike hopefully will get started this year. I talked to them. They're nearing completion of a deal to move, of the dealings to move the phase one of that project forward. So that's another thing. All of that stuff. I think it's going to be a busy year. So, Justin, I can't, to the degree that you can predict, there's always going to be things that go to the plus or to the minus, but not at the chunk that we had to face. We had to climb out of a huge, huge hole and replace a huge amount of value. And we still had growth. So, towns that don't have a mall or some big thing, or that, I'm going to say one thing. I think when we did the 2021 reval, I thought they were ultra conservative on the commercial side in terms of the values. So I think they almost undervalued some of the properties. So I think that's going to return too. So I feel very strongly that, we will see more growth going forward.
Thank you.
Does anyone, Marshall, I liked your suggestions, Marshall.
I just don't want to write any more proposals
So
right
I
now.
want to go to the rest of my report. I just wanted to really go through that. And if you don't understand it after this, or you get a question posed that you don't understand, just reach out to me and I can talk to you about it. Or if you're talking to a neighbor or a business associate and they need clarity, have them call me.
Thank you.
All right. So, I just wanted to touch on, I don't know if you saw in the press there, it came out too late for the package, but the building out in front of the Congregational Church on White Plains Road that everybody's been talking about for years was approved for an adaptive reuse project under our planning and zoning regulations. So that helps preserve a historically significant building and reuse inside. So it's going to be a business that helps individuals from 18 to 23 with developmental disabilities. It's an educational facility. They're going to be fitting out the space inside and accommodating that. And it's great for the church. It gives them income. It's great for the community that the building is activated in for Trumbull Center, and it's great for people that need those services. So it's a great project, I think. And this is the second time we've used our adaptive reuse regulation on a structure that had historic significance recently. Moving on, you saw Choice Pet has opened. They will be replacing their signs. Everybody's asking me. Yes, their signs are on order. They'll be coming. If you haven't been in there, it's really cute. And they're getting a lot of business, people coming in. I do have to reach out to them to see if they want to do a ribbon cutting. I haven't done that yet. They were still getting, situated. I went over and visited with Lobo Reyes, which is on Madison Avenue next to
Edible.
Best Edibles. And wonderful. You probably read the story about the gentleman that owns it. He survived the 9/11. He told me his story. It was really interesting. He's a cool guy. Their food is delicious. So right now they're open 2 to 8. That is what they're doing right now. And he seems to be getting everything, he wants to get everything situated and get his groove down. But you can do catering, you can do takeout, and you can do grab and go. And they have desserts also, delicious carrot cake, other things that you can grab and go. And so we'll be doing a ribbon cutting. He wanted to wait for his signs to go up. So I'll let you know. If you haven't been over to Holly Lane Mall lately, the Ross, the discount retailer home goods place is moving in. They're going to be renovating their space. They have the paper on the windows. The dumpster came this week. Dunkin' Donuts is also being renovated there, and the McDonald's. So there's a lot of dumpsters and renovation going on over there. So McDonald's was actually closed, and Dunkin's been closed as well. They're doing a renovation in both place or Dunkin'. They were doing McDonald's, they were doing some, trying to remember exactly what they were doing, but Dunkin's a full reno. So there's some dumpsters there. People were saying, why is there so many dumpsters in the middle of the parking lot? But there's 2 different things going on on the property. Trumbull Center, the mixed-use development project was continued from last month's planning and zoning meeting. It's on this month's. This month's meeting moved a week later. So it is the 20, I believe it's the Wednesday, let me just look. Is it Wednesday the 24th? I have to check the agenda, but it normally would be this week. It moved to the following week. So if you're interested in Trumbull Center and what that project is, I'd encourage you to tune in to the meeting. The mall study, thank you. We had a great turnout from the commission. I hope you got a lot of information from the presentation. There is a link. I think Gia sent the link, and there's a study package available on the landing page. You can get to it through our website. If you have any questions about where we are so far after today's meeting, please let me know. But we expect that in the next few weeks, we'll have the actual finalization of the document, the plan, and we are scoping out the phase 2 of the mall study, which is taking the study to the marketplace. We have been doing some work to take information to the marketplace on a parallel track, but we're going to ramp that up. And what that means is we're going to take the opportunity for tenants, investors, and developers, make it clear, take it to places that, whether it's through media, through lists, through emailing the document to certain people and certain investment kinds of people, whether it's through meetings, attendance at conferences and presentations at key conferences like ICSC, which is the International Shopping Center Conference, and other places. We have a whole plan we're developing for taking it to the marketplace. But if you didn't attend the meeting, I think most everybody was there, but if you weren't there, you missed it. So it's really about transforming the area from a parking lot with buildings on it to a district, a village district, a mixed use district, call it what you, but like a district. And the addition, the potential to add over 1 million square feet of development as infill development. All right. So infill development is when you have development existing and you use remaining real estate and you start adding additional development to enhance the area. So it's an infill development scenario for the mall property. I would take a look at it if you haven't seen it, but that's significant. If we can, and we hope to get moving on that. So there's some regulations that are going to have to be tweaked or forwarded to planning and zoning, where that's part of the recommendations of the study. Those were presented, but they've been fleshed out in more detail. So those will be coming through planning and zoning. In other words, to ready the ability to take some of this on. So thank you for attending that. And we're always available. As soon as the study document's available, I'll get it out to everybody.
Rena, quick question on that.
Yep.
Can you touch on a little bit the phases that may take place in this new concept for the mall? I mean, there'll be a little bit at a time, but how would that happen without it being a sense of a constant state of construction?
Well, I can't, if there's a constant state of construction, the construction has to be managed. That's my answer. And there's an ability to manage construction. It happens in cities and towns and neighborhoods in cities all the time where there's plenty of construction happening simultaneously. So it'd have to be managed. Now, having said that, as it rolls out, I don't think it's going to all happen on top of each other. We don't know. We have to see what drops first and where. And it could be that something happens on one side of the mall and then something happens on the other side of the mall. Do you know what I'm saying? Or that something gets wrapped up while something else is being queued up. The idea is to transform the area over time, and that transformation externally supports the internal success of the mall and the tenants and vice versa. So what'll happen exactly first? I don't have those answers yet. Do I think that construction can be managed? It's managed all the time in the areas. So we've been managing, the housing has been managed, even though it sits a little further away. If there was a senior housing project, for example, that was done on the Madison Avenue side, I don't see that as a difficult project to manage from a construction perspective. There's plenty of access opportunity, et cetera. But it's not without planning and design that will have to happen. And certainly, there's construction management. So we'll have to, we have to deal with it along the way. We can't connect all the dots looking forward. We can only prepare for things. And we have to take them as they come. We have to feed, try to entice investment. We're doing everything to do that. Build value, entice investment. And as the opportunities come, we'll plan around those accordingly.
Right. I think the concept is excellent. It's a very attractive modern look.
So we're all going to be part of, and this is something Marshall and I were talking about when we were waiting for everybody to get on the meeting. We're all part of taking it to the market. So I think we'll be talking about that as that section, that phase opens up. The commission has a role as well. I mean, folks know we've already started that. We had the broker event at the mall. We got 3 leads of potential tenants from that broker event that are being followed up on. So that was positive. for different kinds of uses that candidly, one of the uses I wouldn't have thought of, but it's a great idea. So, we're already, like I said, talking to a variety of people, and we'll do more of that. Other planning efforts, the Plan of Conservation and Development, we have a big meeting internally on Wednesday to go over, a deeply revised version. There was just a sketchy version of goals and strategies, maybe if you ever saw anything that they were starting to pen out, but now that all the stakeholder information's in, the surveys, all that, we're working, to get that Plan of Conservation and Development. Rob is the project lead, staff lead on that project to get that done in the coming months. I'm hoping that they'll be in a position to adopt it by the end of June. More to come on that, and that's a document for those folks who don't know. It's really our guiding, document, overarching plan. So a lot of the other plans that have been done get tied up into that plan, the thoughts, so it's not like the mall studies happening separately or the Trumbull Center. Those are separate studies, but the findings and the goals of those studies all tie up into the revision of the Plan of Conservation and Development. In terms, okay,
Sorry, just a question about the mall. What has been the response to, what we've been presented so far from the study, by the mall owners? I guess.
they're excited that we're doing a lot of this work, because it helps them. But, they still have a slog ahead of them. Okay. And I want to make clear, I'm glad you asked this because this is a really important point. We did this study regardless of who owns the mall too. So if they own the mall for 20 years, great. If they only own it for 2 years and sell it, doesn't matter. We're setting a vision for the area that stands, whoever the property owner is, and that provides opportunity and value for whoever owns it. And it could be them forever, or it could be that something changes. We saw Westfield sell all their North American holdings to URW. Then URW sold it to them. I mean, this is all since I've been here. You know what I mean? So we can't say whether they'll hold it forever or not. And whatever happens with the ownership of the mall, we proceed with our vision for the area, promoting it, selling it. In fact, it's a lot more appealing in terms of an opportunity than it was before we started the study. So they've received it, Layla, good question, really very well, because it helps them. It's still a lot of work ahead to realize this, but it's definitely something that adds a lot of value, and they see that, and they've appreciated it, and they've expressed in many different forms, many different ways, their appreciation for working with the town that is actually trying to work along with them to maximize the opportunities in and around the area. The study also addresses the areas surrounding the mall, as you guys all know. So, I just want to write some of this down. I apologize. Okay, grants. Just before I think you probably read that we got the a final appropriation of funds was approved in the federal budget. Senators Blumenthal and Murphy supported that for the Veterans Center. So that was a $1.2 million appropriation. I'm in the contracting process for that now. We have all the construction money to build the Veterans Center. There's a groundbreaking. If you can attend, that would be fantastic, on May 10th at 11 a.m. on site. You'll get an invitation, but May 10th at 11 a.m. on site. That is the phase 1 construction that's going to do the septic, the stormwater system, and the foundation. And then we're going to bid the vertical construction out this summer.
I have a random question about that. We have a family here in Trumbull that they're military, active military members, and the husband is actually a high-ranking military officer. They want to be involved with that veteran center, and they asked me. I didn't know who to direct them toward to. Do you have?
Yeah, Ray Baldwin is our chairman of the building committee, and he's the one getting everybody involved. And I
Okay.
can send you his contact.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
and
and
anybody who has contacts like that, veterans that want to know more, get involved, feel free to invite them to the groundbreaking. That is a public event. So you can invite them where they'll meet some folks. And any veterans that want to know more about how to get involved, you know, just we'll get them in touch with Ray. I can get everybody Ray's contact. But please feel free to invite anybody you want to the groundbreaking. We want a good crowd there.
Yeah, I believe we have actually a few there. I know personally of a few military families in town. So I'll spread the word.
Thank you. Okay, I also submitted a grant a couple of weeks ago to the T-Mobile Foundation. I don't know if we'll get funded. It's the grant I'll know sometime before the end of May. But even if I don't get the funding through this, I sat today on a webinar for the National Endowment for the Arts, the State Arts Office and Humanities Office. And what we submitted for was a, when you walk in the mall, oh, I almost forgot to tell you. So when you walk in the mall, the Cheesecake Factory door is on the right. I mean, the Cheesecake's on the right, and Express Clothing and Target is on the left. That door, it's called door 6, but I don't know if door 6 means anything to anybody. But it's on the Main Street side between Cheesecake Factory and it's Express. There's a lease signed for a Black Pearl bubble tea place is going in that vacant storefront right there when you walk in, and their architect is working with them right now. They're going to clean up the outdoor area, have outdoor, indoor, and some seating in the mall. That's not what we applied for the grant for, but I just forgot to tell you that Bubble Tea signed their lease. We have a couple of other leases that are in the works too for other tenants, but that will be right where you walk in near the Cheesecake Factory. So that area, that big like hallway, the pretzel place is on one, there's chairs there. They put some new standing, you know, tall tables in there. That area, we applied for funding to do a mobile art gallery. And when I say mobile, the cabinets would be sealed, safe cabinets that art displays, exhibits could go into with furnishings on either side. We put money in for the cabinets, the mechanism to hang the art and position the art within the cabinets, and furniture that's you know, you can move around, benches that you can, you know, assemble in different configurations for various galleries, for various shows. And it would be really allowing regional and local Trumbull artists. In fact, one gentleman seated, the person who really gave us the idea was a gentleman that attended one of our mall meetings. I think it was the last one. He's an artist. He moved to Trumbull a few years ago. He was in Bridgeport most of his life. And he came to see me afterward. And I said, wow, I have this grant opportunity. And he wrote a letter of support and even allowed us to submit his resume as an example of the type of artists that we could feature here. And we had other collaborators and so forth for this. But there would be exhibits that could be accompanied by, you know, musical poetry readings, musical, you know, thematic kinds of presentations that tie to the art exhibit. And the programming would be would be built out, you know, over time. In fact, the commission can even help with this if we get the grant. If we don't get the grant, I am going to go to the state representative, Sarah Kitt loved the idea. And she has committed to helping me have a conversation with the arts department, you know, the DECD, arts and tourism and so forth. She's checking around and she's going to work with me. She's been wonderful on grants. I mean, she's amazing. She is in contact all the time. She's helping us secure all kinds of opportunities. And I really appreciate someone like her, being so active. She's been great for me to work with. So I'll let you know if we get the grant. I will need some group of folks to help me from this commission, a little subsection. Layla's good. I'm glad Layla's nodding yes, because you might be one of those people.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. They have not given a grant in Connecticut before, but we have their best performing store in the Northeast is in our mall. So we cited that, and we cited a lot of stuff related to the study. And, so we'll see. You can only try, right? And once you write something, you can use that grant, like I said, for other opportunities. I don't have to reinvent everything. We have the concept written up.
Actually was
Mhm.
thinking of, because every time I go to the mall, I'm like, how can we make the mall better? About, generally kids like to go to the mall, or young people, teenagers. And I was thinking about, what do they like to do? And gaming is so big. Like, what if we had like a gaming expo? Because they have all of these like
That's a great idea.
competitions where people just watch people playing video games. So that could be an easy setup. But it would drive a lot of people to the space.
That's such a good team. You know what? I'm going to talk to Bob Murdoch, who runs the convention bureau. I'm gonna ask him about gaming conventions. That's a
Yeah, because you
great
could just have
idea.
them use it as a location, an already pre-existing gaming convention, and just have
That's
them
a
use.
great idea. Look at all these ideas we got in tonight. So on the public art conversation, we're gonna have our first public art mural in Trumbull going up. It's a collaboration with Make-A-Wish. It's in our Trumbull Corporate Park. I will circulate to you in an email what the public art looks like, but Make-A-Wish put out a RFP for mural ideas, because they're doing one on their property, and the other one is if you're driving on Route 8 on Merritt Boulevard, there's a bridge wall, an inside bridge wall. It's on Merritt Boulevard. It's not on Route 8. And it's the bridge wall that you see when you drive by is going to be the mural. And Make-A-Wish will be responsible for the upkeep of the actual mural. They're paying for the mural through funds that they've raised, but they've worked with a group of people in the corporate park and on the staff of Trumbull, and we're working through DOT to get the permits to do that. So, and it will also be on the Connecticut Mural Trail, which is kind of cool. And they're putting paint over the top of the mural that is an anti-graffiti paint. I mean, it's probably called something else, but the graffiti doesn't stick to it. It can be washed right off. Although what they found is throughout the state that really they don't have a big problem with people putting graffiti over people's artwork. There seems to be a respect for the artist there. So, but just in case, they're putting that. So I think it's kind of cool. I think it's a good thing for our corporate park. It kind of draws a little attention over to there. Again, another thing that makes it, a point of interest. So stay tuned. I'll send you I'll email you the mural, what it's gonna look like. So, other grants, there's a grant into LOTSIP, the Local Transportation Capital Improvement Program, to fund the trail connector from Dunellen Road and Whitney Avenue corner down to the trail. Vicky has been spearheading actually this allocation of funding. She's through the MetroCog. So we should know in another month or so whether DOT approves the project. The application went in today. Bill Maurer and myself and Stantec are working on that. And Stantec did a great job helping us pull a lot of the basic information together for the lots of applications. So hopefully we hear back in the next month. That project is fully designed. So if we do get the money, we have to go to contract. But once we go to contract, we can bid and go to construction. And, realistically next spring, that could be under construction. That has to be timed. Actually, we're talking next summer because we don't want to do it when school's in, now that I'm remembering our discussion, because that's a busy area and they're going to have to cut it down to one lane when there's going to be, only one lane open. So we probably won't, even though we'll bid it sooner, it probably won't start construction till school is out. And I'm feeling very optimistic about that money, by the way, very. Grants. GIA is taking on the Neighborhood Assistance Act tax credit program that we do every year. She helped me on it last year, and this year she's doing the whole thing by herself, and she's doing a great job reaching out to the nonprofits, getting them to apply for a certain number of the tax credits, and then we submit our combined application up to the state. And whatever we're awarded, the nonprofits then are able to give the tax credits to certain types of donors for key projects that they propose. So Gia is not here for me to thank her, but you can thank her when you see her. She's doing a great job on that. She's enjoying it. I think she really loves the project and dealing with the nonprofits. She seems to really like that. Restaurant week planning, we're starting planning at the end of June. For Restaurant Week, it'll be this fall. Again, we could use a few extra volunteers. So if anybody's getting excited, let Gia know you want to be invited. If you want to be a part of that. I don't have any other meetings scheduled so far for other events because it's just been too busy. So when I get back from Italy, I'll start focusing on other events aside from Restaurant Week. If you don't know, someone passed away from choking at one of our restaurants back in February. It's really tragic. So the police department reached out to me, and we had one meeting, and we're going to have another one about a device that can be located in different places. It's a low-cost device that can help people that are choking. So we're going to be working with the police department and this vendor on this. It's called LifeVac. And you'll hear more about it, but to see what we can do to work with our restaurants and the police department to see if we can get some of this in each of our restaurants, because it's very, very tragic what happened. And I won't get into any more details right now. But it certainly warrants some of our attention to see what we can do, what else we can do to prevent something like this from happening again. Just want to go through my list quickly. I think that's all the high points for now. There are some other grants that we're going to be working on. But I'll report on those next month as they get formulated. Does anybody have any questions?
I do, but I was going to take it under community input after your report.
So I'm done. So you
Okay.
can do whatever.
Okay. We have no community members here. I've just checked the 12 participants. However, I want to talk about something as a community member, as opposed to just a board member, commission member. I very much opposed the extension of the Long Hill Green District to include the decrepit florist and the brown two-family house that the church owned, jumping over the nursing home. And it got ramrodded through zoning. Okay, it's still decrepit. They didn't get the money they wanted. They sold it. We still have a dangerous blighted property here. But now we have someone who is living in the brown house. It is not being developed. Nothing is going on. And they're doing all their access from the rear. And we really were hoodwinked by the church, who's tried to ramrod so many things through this town. And as a neighbor, really upset with what's going on in the neighborhood. And I know our blight officer wasn't on today because I was in the office early this morning.
He
But-
started a new blight action on them, and they are in talking to us about a redevelopment of the property. So that in the
But
interim.
they told us
they
no
have-
one was going to be living in that home, and I don't know that that
Oh,
home
I
is
don't-
up to specs or anything to be in terms of safety.
I think there was people living in it in the past. There was people.
Yes, but then the
associated
church
with the
emptied it.
diocese.
When they sold it, they
Oh,
emptied it.
okay.
You know, they emptied it in order to sell it.
Yeah, there's no restriction on whether they can rent the house right now or not.
No, I'm just wondering about its condition.
I think it's an inhabitable. It is inhabitable. Yeah, but I just want you to know I didn't
But the
report
blight
on
is
it.
a
'Cause
problem.
yes, the blight, there is a new blight action that Brian is taking up, and it has to go through a process. They do want to take the property down. They are going through the demolition permit process. And also working to get their development plans together, and we're having some back and forth because
Yeah, I know,
I'm
it's-
not sure where they're at.
It's more
here
than
with this.
15 years it's been derelict and dangerous here.
But I will tell you, Marshall, they've been working with DOT, and they're getting the DOT, because a lot of that property sits in the DOT right away. So they
Yes.
were getting direction from DOT about what they had to do, and they were getting the disconnections of the utilities from the area. So they
Okay.
are working on that.
Glad to hear
You
it.
know, I'm not uh, I'm not sure what they're going to propose for development. We'll have to see. We kind of had a few meetings, and, I think they need to really work on their concept. Let me say that.
Okay, and further down the road, still Long Hill Village, actual construction work started on the realignment of the driveway across the street from Whitney, so we can have the light. They did start tearing up the parking lot today.
Yep. Thank you, Marshall. I forgot
did
that.
notice it. Okay,
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
no, I want to close community input since there are no other community members here, unless somebody who's a commissioner wants to speak as a community member. Any other commissioners with questions for the director or personal comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting
So
at
moved.
7:31. Moved by
Yep.
Justin Shogo. Do we have a second?
Second,
Second by Fred Petrosi. All in favor?
aye.
Motion carries. Everyone have a wonderful rest of the month. Thank you, Rena. And we'll be in touch
Marshall,
with all
just
of you.
tell me, I'm sorry, who did, Fred was second?
Fred was second. Justin made the motion. Approved unanimously at 7:32 p.m. I'm glad we kept this exactly a 1 hour meeting and we covered a lot.
you.
Thank you all.